All right, welcome back, biology students. We are moving through our evolution unit. This is the third lesson in our evolution unit. And in lesson two, we learned about natural selection. So if you have not already watched lesson two, the theory of natural selection, you're going to want to go back and check out that video because it has the definition of natural selection and some examples of natural selection. And of course, we talked about the four principles of natural selection back in that lesson. Today's focus is to sort of focus on a real world phenomena and sort of tied into some of the things that we have been talking about with regards to evolution and natural selection. So, if you're in class today, or for my students who are in class today, we're going through what's called a 5E lesson. So, there's 5 parts to this lesson, and each part starts with the letter E. So I'm going to move through best I can with you guys watching from home. But one of the things we did in class today is I had the students research this topic. So if you have a second, pause the video and just check this out. Quick Google search, teens that have died from MRSA. And you might want to do a little research on what MRSA is because the students in class today just kind of typed in some of these questions. We had a little discussion, answered the questions. So just to recap, MRSA is an infection caused by a type of staph bacteria that's become resistant to many of the antibiotics that are used to treat ordinary staph infections. And so this phenomena showcases what we've learned with regards to natural selection. And just a reminder, remember from the last lesson, nature selects for certain traits. So organisms like plants and animals, and even in this case, bacteria, have to adapt to their environments. And these adaptations provide these organisms with a better chance of survival and reproduction. And remember, we call that survival of the fittest. So we watched a little antibiotic resistance video today, and then we're going to do a lab. And I'll make sure that I post the makeup version of this lab. So we were focusing on in the lab antibiotic resistance, which kind of ties into the MRSA research that we did. There's a video that we're going to watch in class. So again, I'll post that for you guys. And this is the notes part. So pause the video, copy all of this information into your notes. It's all good stuff. So we're focusing on biological resistance as an example for natural selection. So by definition, biological resistance is the natural or genetic ability of an organism to avoid or repel attack by biotic agents. Remember, biotic agents are living organisms, so pathogens, pests, parasites. This could also be to withstand the effects of an abiotic agent. So abiotic are non-living components of an environment. So this could be like chemicals or pesticides or antibiotics, salt, wind, heavy metals. There's tons of examples. But again, the focus for today is over antibiotic resistance. So biological resistance is a perfect example of natural selection, which is why we are taking the time to have a specific lesson over some of the different forms of biological resistance. Antibiotic resistance is not the only form of resistance. So two other examples of biological resistance that applies to natural selection would be with like pesticide resistance, which can develop over time when pesticides are repeatedly applied to organisms. It's like the decreased susceptibility of a pest population to a pesticide that maybe was once effective. And in class, we're going to do a worksheet where we look at a pesticide called DDT that was used that is obviously no longer effective because the pest became resistant through a mutation. The pest became resistant to that particular pesticide. And so, of course, new pesticides had to be developed as a result. Another form of biological resistance that's really applicable to us today is like with influenza, which is the flu virus. So because of evolution, there's constantly new strains of influenza that emerge, and this makes vaccines that are designed to fight against the flu no longer effective. And so researchers and scientists have to constantly be on the front edge of that. They have to understand vaccine resistance, biological resistance, so that they can develop these vaccines so that they are effective. So this was a really short lesson. I mean, obviously you didn't have a lot to copy down in your notes. And I hope this lesson was helpful. And I will see you in the next evolution lesson.